Hi students, this video is all about the creativity component. Now, you already watched the video that is about the trifold board and making sure that your driving question and the background of your trifold board is creative and artistic and an illustration of something. But the creativity part doesn't end there. There's an additional creativity component. Remember, Gate Symposium is not only a research project, it's also an art project. It's 50% research and 50% art. And even if you don't think that you're good at drawing or you're not an artsy person, I want you to know that every single one of you has the ability to be creative. Creativity is in every single brain. We just need to foster it. So we want you guys to create something in addition to your trifold board. And so this could be a multitude of things. And to inspire you a little bit, we're going to be showing you a video that showcases Miss Pete. Mrs. Pete is the art teacher at our school, and she's a wonderful resource and a wonderful mentor. So what you should do is, if you have ideas or you're curious about something or you don't know how to execute something or you just need some inspiration, you should definitely go see her. She's in the classroom that's right across the library. So make sure you consult with Mrs. Pete if you need any advice or want to brainstorm with her. The supplemental creative component is actually not due until March 9th, which is the weekend right before symposium week. In fact, even if you have it ready, we'd like for you to keep it nice and safe at home and don't bring it until Friday, February 9th, because if you leave it around in the classroom, there's a possibility that it might accidentally get broken or misplaced or something like that. Each year, we also have a lot of students who have life-size pieces where their parents have to help them. Maybe they have to put it in the back of a pickup truck and have it installed. Somebody last year made this booth where you can actually step into the booth. So if your supplemental creative piece is really large, then it's probably a good idea to wait until the very last minute to bring it. Not the last minute to make it, but to install it into the gym, because we do not want people to accidentally knock it over and things like that. So we're going to be installing everything into the gym that Monday, the 12th. So Monday is the 12th, Tuesday is the 13th. Those are the rehearsal and installation days. And Wednesday, the 14th is the day of Gate Symposium. Remember, this year, Gate Symposium is on a Wednesday night in the gym. All right, so let's talk about the supplemental creative piece. You can do paintings, murals, drawings, album, scrapbook, artifact, photo exhibit. If you want to do a photo journal, you can. One year we had a group of students do a passport, but in each of the pages of the passport, there were photographs of immigrants and refugees on boats from different places of the world. You can do a mural, which shows a story over time. You can do drawings. You can create an album. You can perform a musical piece if it reflects your message or your conflict. You can paint something. You could do a gallery wall. There's so much you can do. You can do 3D sculptures out of cardboard, out of clay. We have tons of cardboard, clay, and hot glue and tape. Something that looks like it's made out of found trash can become a beautiful masterpiece through paint and some creative thinking, right? You can get 3D objects and create a sculptural installation. You can have this part actually for the supplemental creative piece, you are allowed to have your parents help you. So if you want to create like a giant, sorry about that. So if you want to create like a giant sculpture or a place where people can walk in or something that's more life-size, then you should definitely ask a parent to help you or somebody who can help you use hammer and nails and weld things or saw things and things like that. So we want to make sure that you know that the sky's the limit. Like you can literally create a gigantic thing. You could, if it's too big, we'll figure out a way to still make it work, okay? I don't think it'll be too big because we're going to be in the gym, right? We really want you to shine. We want you to be amazing and do something really crazy and extravagant, because that's going to make people want to go to your booth, want to go to your corner of the gym. And it's also really exciting. I mean, if you've ever been to a museum and you see a really cool exhibition, you're just drawn to it and you want to learn more, right? So in order for you to draw in your viewers, you want to create an amazing looking exhibition that is very artistic and has multiple layers of meaning and is related to your driving question, your SLR, your information, your research, your message, and especially your relevant resolution. You can do an interactive element. It could be a game. We've had a lot of students in the past with different games. I'll go over some of those when I show you pictures. You can do a performance, you can do a skit, you can dress up in costume or in character and do a performance, or you can do performance art. There are lots of amazing different types of performance art. People who want to showcase the feeling of isolation or sadness, they could show that by becoming a sculptor themselves. Maybe creating a square in the center of the gym and creating some sort of, maybe with music, maybe they can interpretive dance, or maybe they could sit there in silence, or as you're going to see in Miss Pete's presentation, there's a lot of really interesting performance art, even where like people will sit in a circle or sit inside a hole for like 7 hours. Of course, you're not going to do that, but they do that to say something about the world, to give their perspective about the world and their message. Another thing you can do is something more tech forward, like a podcast. But of course, this podcast would have to be really well produced. It can't just be you talking about your ISD. It can also be a video about your ISD. It needs to be like an actual artistic video. It could be a music video. It could be a documentary. It could be an actual film, a short film, where you have a plot and it reflects your driving question or your research or your conflict. It can be a multimedia piece. It could be multiple things together. And when it comes to the art as well, it can be multimedia. So you don't have to just paint or do a photograph. Some people can paint on top of photographs. Some people can photograph a painting and then put that on a sculpture. So there's so many things you can do. All right. And for this particular component, you are allowed to buy cheap materials on your own. You don't have to only use the materials we give you at school. So if you need wire, if you need a piece of wood and your parents are willing to buy that for you, that's totally fine. Okay. But we just definitely do want you to be creative and think outside the box. Don't just rely on just creating, like, let's say if you're doing technology, don't just make a cardboard laptop. That doesn't do anything, okay? So a cardboard laptop would not count as a creative component for something about technology. So you have to really think about the multiple layers of meaning. If you want to ask me for advice, or you want to get approval, or you just want to brainstorm with me, feel free to come by. And you can also ask Mrs. Pete. She's really, really great at helping students get that artistic piece going. Remember, this is due on March 9th, so you have a little bit more time compared to when your trifold boards are due, which is March 2nd. So you do have a little bit more time to do this, and you can do a lot of it at home as well, okay? How do I figure out what to do for my supplemental creative piece? Now, if you want to get really inspired, go research it. Go to Google Images, and all of these museums, from the Metropolitan Museum of Art all the way to the Whitney Museum, to LACMA, to the Getty Center, all of these places have amazing permanent collections, and those permanent collections are featured on their website, so you can see images, sometimes even 360-degree images of these pieces, and you can learn about them and get ideas of how different artists decide to communicate their thoughts and their themes in their art, and what shapes they use, what symbols, the methods they use to create it. It's really awesome. Remember to think about how you want your audience members to feel. Okay, and what you want them to learn. So if you're trying to show the dangers of social media addiction and you just create a cardboard laptop, that's not going to make audience members feel anything. It's just literally a toy that you're creating out of cardboard. It's not a big deal. It's not artistic. It's just like a picture of a laptop. That doesn't show that you're being creative, okay? But maybe you can create a sculpture that shows like chains, and maybe the chains are connected to the laptop, or it's like weighed down, or maybe you're showing like the addiction, where maybe you can see like inside the computer is another computer, and inside that is another one, and maybe that's on a mirror. So when people look at it, they see themselves, and they see, whoa, because they're seeing like this endless array of computers or of social networking, and then they see themselves in it. So you have to really think about the multiple layers of meaning, okay? Remember, you need to make sure that you watch the rest of this video. I know it's long, but it's gonna be amazing. I promise you, I guarantee it, to watch the entire presentation by Mrs. Pete, okay? Real quickly, let me go over some examples from last year. So this is exactly what I talked about earlier: resolutions, message, multiple layers of meaning. Can I go to the store? Yes, you can. So once again, I wrote right here, if your project is about the internet, do not make a cardboard computer screen. Okay, that is not how you do the creative component. It has to have multiple layers of meaning. That's the key word. Those are the key words. Multiple layers of meaning. It just can't be, this is a laptop. You have to show this is a laptop that has a chain, where the laptop opens up to another laptop, opens up to a laptop, which is on a mirror, which reflects you. So that's much more of multiple layers of meaning. Now it shows like social networking addiction, the endlessness of it, and how it reflects our society, and we when we see a reflection in the mirror, okay? All right, so here are some examples from last year. This was a photo booth, and I think there were more elements involved there. I don't really remember, but this was about like the origins of where love comes from. And then this was an interactive game. So people had to match the invention with the way that it helped human life on Earth. So this is from the space exploration project from last year. This is a refrigerator, and there are vegan foods in there that people tried. This is a computer right here, and it shows how some of the news stories that we hear are usually from more affluent, which is richer, or more powerful nations, like places in the European Union or the United States of America, whereas when something big happens, like a terrorist attack happens in a smaller nation, then it's barely talked about. So if something happens in France, it makes the front page, but if something happens in a small country in Africa, then it might not make the front page. And so they wanted to show the inequality of that, so they showed a keyboard, and they painted every single key a different flag, except for the ones that people touch the most, like the enter, the space bar, and all that stuff, had the British flag, the American flag, and they put more American flags than ever, than any other flag, because the main mode of reaching our news, of accessing our news, is the internet, and how we click on our keyboard or click on the touchpad of our smartphones. And so they created this type of keyboard right here. This is a sculpture. You can't really tell right now, but you can see that it's about poverty. So one is impoverished and one isn't. There's two people, and they're mirror images, but they have very different prospects of their future. This part right here is about recycling. It's about plastic and the environment, and so they created the earth, but instead of creating it just with blue and green, they said that they decided to glue on plastic pieces there, things that are considered harmful to our environment because they don't biodegrade. All right. This was a game where people can guess the life expectancy of different nations, and it shows that people are actually wrong a lot of the time. They think that richer nations somehow live longer, but that's not necessarily the case. So there were this was a huge mural that a student made, and there's Velcro, and it's really cool. This was a photo gallery, another photo gallery, like an art exhibit. This is really cool. This was a Louis Vuitton chest, and when you open it, you see the factory in which all of the different leather goods are created in, and how the chemical leaches into the rivers, and the fumes from the chemicals go into the air, and they investigated the environmental impact of different brands like Fendi and Gucci and Supreme and all of these big name brands. And so it's an interactive piece because they get to open it and look behind the facade, look behind the outside, because the outside looks like something, but the inside shows a different story. And it was also an art piece. So this is actually, this part right here, this chest is, yes, it belongs with this whole closet here, which is their trifold board, but it's still separate, and it's a different piece because when you open it, you'll see a completely different scene. You see this entire like factory and all that. This was an installation, so you can't tell right now because it was turned off when we took the picture, but they projected the Martian environment here with the projector through the back, and then they created a rover and a helmet using paper mache, and then they created this large ground that looks like the Martian landscape, and people could take pictures there because theirs was about the possibility of human life on Mars. So now let's go ahead and watch Mrs. Pete talk. Thank you guys.
I'm really happy that you could come today. This is one of my favorite things I feel that I can give to you as an art teacher. And we have like a number of things to go over. We'll try to do it as quickly as we can, but there's just so much for us to tell you. In your Gay Symposium projects, and you have several parts, correct? Like for instance, you're making your driving question, and you're doing a lot of research, and you're doing a lot of conversation, collaborating, figuring out what it is that you want to use for your question and what you want your Gay Symposium to be about. So there's the research part, and then there's the written part, and then you have the trifold, right? And that's coming next week. And have you guys seen the trifolds? Have you seen the trifolds that they did last year for Gate Symposium? And how they were really amazing and over the top. The kids put so much work and so much thought into those things. They were incredible. And then what is the third piece? What is the third component? The creative, right? So for a lot of you, it's going to be art. It's going to be some kind of art piece that you make. So I'm going to show you some different types of art. There's so many choices that you have, but I'm going to show you some of the main ones that I think would be important and that Ms. Park would think would be important too. And then I'm going to show you about supplies and materials you can do and try to give you a lot of things to stimulate your ideas. Now, I think it's very important as an art teacher and a creative person. I know when I'm trying to do an art piece or I'm trying to come up with some ideas, I like to start early because the creative process is different than it's different than like the researching process. Like you're researching and you're filling your mind with ideas and you're filling your mind with information and facts and so forth. But then when it comes to the creative part, it's almost like a creative idea just comes to you. Like you can't always just sit down. Some people can, and I can do this sometimes, but it kind of like just comes to you. That's when you just sit down and you will have just a creative thought. But have any of you ever had ideas like when you were running or when you were walking somewhere or you were sitting quietly somewhere or just relaxing? Have any of you ever just come up with ideas that way? It kind of almost feels like a bit of magic or something. Well, anyways, that's how it works for me, and I know that's how it works for a lot of people. So this is to get us started early and start thinking about what kind of art piece are you going to make? What kind of creative thing are you going to be doing? And again, this is like to stimulate you early, and you'll see. So you may come up with an idea even today, but it may change. It may change completely or just be adjusted or altered. This is called environmental art. This is one piece of our environmental art, and as soon as you looked at it, you probably had some kind of thoughts, ideas, feelings that came with that. So what do you think about, what kind of colors are those, Leo? Like what type? Well, how would you describe those colors?
Vibrant.
Vibrant. Would you say these colors are full of life, vitality, vibrant?
Yes.
So would you say this is like a happy piece?
Yes.
Because of the colors?
Yes.
Okay. And what would you say about the shapes that you see? Do you guys think of fall when you see this?
Yeah. Yes.
Why? You can just, so it looks like they took these fall leaves and put them in this design. Or what is it called when shapes repeat themselves? What is that called? Pattern. Yeah. So we have that. That's one of our standards in art too, art pattern. Okay, so a circle doesn't have edges. It doesn't have like sharp corners like a square, rectangle, or triangle. So typically a circle is thought to be like a friendlier shape, kind of like a human shape, like a full shape. Like a wedding ring is a circle, is supposed to mean eternity. If you think of like the yin and yang symbol within a circle, if you think of the peace sign, just through history, like often like a circle shape is kind of a friendly, peaceful, happy shape. So I also wanted to show you, you can use branches, you can use trees. Santa Ana, we're so lucky that we live here in Santa Ana in this area, I think, because we have so many old growth trees. And if you really wanted some branches, you could probably just find some like at your house or ask some neighbors. And if you ask me, I can see if I can get some from my house. But we paper, they painted it. They probably it just looks like regular paper. There might even be lines right here, like lines from the kind of paper that you write with. So when you make art like this, the idea is that everything means something. The ground means something if you're putting the leaves on the ground. The tree means, the branches mean something. The leaves mean, if they're cut out like this, it could mean something like the human is making something, like the human and the plant are coming together, like nature and humans are coming together instead of there having been so much destruction with our environment and so forth.
You don't have to use a tree if only you're doing something on the environment, because think about what a tree represents. it bears life, it grows, it changes over time. Think about ways you can create metaphors to some of the issues that you're exploring. That could be explained through a tree, right?
Exactly. To that. And these I'm pretty sure are leaves. They don't look like leaves though, but they're pretty sure leaves. But do you see how this could kind of be scary too? Like this could. So when you're making your art piece, again, you're not maybe necessarily going to use natural items, but we're giving you examples. But like, let's say, can you give an example of an idea that would work with one of these?
Yeah, so maybe some of you guys are doing yours on different mental illnesses or PTSD, depression, anxiety. You can show those feelings. Sometimes it's really hard to draw out a feeling, like how do you draw anxiety? But you could show the feeling of feeling anxious through the colors you use. Maybe the like abyss that you see, or like the never-ending hole. Maybe instead of using red and yellow, you might want to use more darker colors or something. And then also, if you can't really tell from there, but I think they painted leaves or like wooden chips. So just because you use a piece of nature that you grab from the park or your backyard or that Miss P finds for you, doesn't mean you just use it as is. You can actually use that as a canvas. You could paint on rocks. You could paint leaves. You can paint wooden branches. You can draw things on them instead of painting on paper. And those would have additional layers of meaning for your project.
Okay. So students, here's another circle. And does this give a different message? You can just say it out. Yes. Yes. So what are some things you might think when you see this one? Like what are some, like let's say you just walk by and someone has you're not going to have someone stuck in a hole, but you might be able to make something look kind of like this. So there's other ways you could do that. Like you're probably not going to go out to the outside and just dig a hole and put a kid in because we don't want to hurt anybody. But you might be able to do this with a mannequin. You might be able to paint this. You might be able to do this somewhere and take a photograph and then enlarge it and have that. But let's say someone walks by your area, like at Gate Symposium night. Like let's say that night they come by and there's your trifold and all your written information, and then there's like, let's say there's a giant photograph like this or something like this. There's a very famous saying that a picture paints 1,000 words, and I think that is so, so true. And it's probably even well more than 1,000 words. But if you have a really good piece of art, a photograph, sculpture, painting, mural, you don't need the words around it, and people just come up with different ideas. And here's the whole thing. You want people to think. You want to like draw them in, and you want them to think. You want them to not just go, oh, that's a pretty kitten, even though it's nice to see a picture of a pretty kitten, or like that's a beautiful vase of flowers. That's nice and peaceful too. But we want something where people like come in and look and they're like, why did they do that? Oh, look at that. And maybe like they get a feeling of awe, like that's beautiful. Maybe they get a feeling of like, oh, that's scary, or oh, that's creepy, or I'm not sure what I'm thinking, but they're interested. Because your Gate Symposium is to help people think. It's to help them like learn these ideas and learn these things that you're studying, that you're learning, okay? So it makes it meaningful for everyone. So you put yourself into it. Like this is literally he put himself into it, or his little brother or something, but you put, if you put enough thought into it and enough like effort, trust me, you will come into this. Again, maybe not your body, but now look at this one is a photograph, and this is considered art. Tell us about this one. Yes. Yes. And how many of us are like really worried about pollution, or is such a big concern in our world, isn't it?
Is if you use a photograph as your canvas, so you could use a photograph that already exists, but you could paint on top of it, so you could layer things on top of the photograph.
Get inspired by other art, so you can take things. So you could even take this or something like this, and you could put up a paper and trace it, let's say maybe even a bigger paper, because we want to go big. Part of why you're here today is we want you to go big. Maybe it's not some things, but probably almost everything big. Do you see how you can trace these? You can project like these real pieces of plastic and glue it in here, So there's a lot of things you can do. Now, next one, please. Okay. Oh, I think this one. I was just going to show them because we have so many artists in here. Can you go? Here's just a painting of. Do you remember when we had all those oil spills a couple years ago? Like those horrible, like the ones that were right here in California, and how much it hurt. And we tend to have them all over the world here and there.
So, Ms. P, earlier when you were saying how you have to have like meaning and make people think,
Yeah.
if they had just used pencil and a black marker, so it wasn't dripping like oil, then it would have just been a picture of a seagull or a bird, right? But because they painted it in a way where it looks like it's just drenched in this glistening black thick oil that's suffocating the animals in the sea, it becomes a totally different picture. It has more meaning. It might even have a message showing you about the dangers of oil spills in our oceans.
And maybe you would make it bigger than life, like much bigger than the seagull, the whole thing. There's so many things to think about. The scale, the size, the texture, the colors. The black and white is very strong in this too. Usually we want color, but there's going to be a lot of color. It might be interesting for one of you here or there to just have black and white. Boom. So then I'm going to go. We'll talk a little more about symbolism too, like symbolism. Like, well, a tree is a symbol of life. It can also be a symbol of death. Hands can be a symbol. So if you see hands reaching out like this, what would you think? Yes. Yes. Being welcome. What else? Yes. Yes. So welcoming, offering. It's kind of vulnerable too. They say when you show your hands like this, you're kind of being vulnerable to people. You know, you're just sharing yourself. So, you know, everything means something. I think these are quite large. There's so many things to think about here, like why did they make them white? Okay, what is this stuff here? It looks like it's some kind of, what do you think?
Algae.
Moss. Is it like a healthy moss or is it just like a weird fungus? So, you know, why are the hands white? Is it because purity or because it's a white person? You know, like there's like a lot of things that you can think about, like,
And like maybe who is it? Who are the hands extending to, or whose hands they belong to? What's going to be in the hand, or is it going to be empty for a reason? Or what are you going to? You can even paint the hands with illustrations or symbols or colors that convey a message. There's so much you can do with this. The hand could be extending to another hand, right, or another source, or it could be from something else. It shows you maybe the conflict or the resolution. There's so many ways you can take this idea of using hands.
Has any of you ever seen this before? Do you remember this?
Yeah.
This is on a tofu box. This is by Annalicia Aguilar, and she used to be a student here. Now I think she's in like 11th grade. But this was made from, you know when you break your arm and or somebody breaks their arm and you put a cast on it? So they're like these little like sheets that of gauze, and they have plaster on them, and it's pretty fun to do. You just like put you put Vaseline on your hand, then you put the cast over it, and then you get to walk around school like this for about an hour, and then it just pulls off, and then you use paper mache and put it all on here and paint it. Now, you can make like hands coming out of the wall. You can do this same thing. You can put it over your face with Vaseline and make your face come off like this. You could, I don't know, I don't know if you could do your feet. Your feet might get stuck. But we could probably figure something out. Anyways, if you wanted to do something hand size, you know, then hands can be like coming out like down like this. They can be coming out like this. There's like, you know. And also, another thing, I have like books on how to draw hands. I personally do like drawing hands. So that's my hand right there. So thank you. What do you think of this picture? This drawing or painting? Leo?
Of sort of alien.
Looks like alien. That's interesting. Anyone else? Just go ahead and belt it out. Jonathan, what do you think?
It's like her lips look like a flower.
Yeah.
Kind of look like this, but they're like big.
Do you think those are her lips, or do you think that they're like a flower stuck in her mouth?
Flower stuff in her mouth.
How many of you think it looks like lips? Like that's her mouth. How many of you think it looks like a flower stuck in her mouth? So you see, we all interpret it and see it differently. So perhaps she could be saying something wonderful with this flower mouth, or perhaps she's being silenced, you know, by somebody putting this flower against her. Now, when I first saw this, I thought this looks like kind of a happy painting, like this looks like a child, because we do our eyes really large, you know, children's eyes are larger, and then our face kind of grows into our eyes. But then as I look closer, to me, I saw this as silencing her. And then the colors, like they're bright, but then they're kind of like cold and, you know, kind of like foreboding or something. Oh, and I stuck this in because I love maps, and a lot of your things, your things you're looking at are about history or about different parts of the world. And a wonderful way to symbolize that is maps, and there's so many great maps on the internet. So think about maps too.
You can even like draw on top of maps, right? Or,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
paint on top of maps, or use maps to like collage something.
Yes, exactly. So there's one of those that says Mod Podge, and that's like a glue and a gloss. And let's say you do a collage, you just paint it over and make it shine. Here's an example. This was made on a cigar box, and somebody like collaged this probably from a calendar, and the flowers here, and then you put this kind of slick stuff on it and just paint it on, and it seals it in. So we use a lot of, it's called Mod, M-O-D, Podge, B-O-D-G-E. So here's just another, you know, beautiful environmental art piece. Now, oftentimes I found with art that people need a place to put it. They need kind of a room to put their art, to put their ideas in. So I downloaded this, I downloaded this. Yeah. And this is a famous piece by Christo. And this was done, I think, in the 80s. Well before you. All right, and he made these huge environmental pieces, and you can see, well, what is this first? Tell me, what is this? Yes, Leo?
A hill.
A hill,
with
yes.
With ice.
With what?
Ice.
It looks like sheets.
Sheets.
Kind of like an order.
They look like so many sheets.
Yeah. So these are very tall sheets, and this artist and his wife, I can't remember their first names. Would you see who that is, Andres? Thank you. Created this thing for miles and miles and miles, all along California, like near the coast. And a lot of people were really upset that they did this because they thought that it was like a waste of money. They thought like, why are you doing that? That looks like stupid. Why are you wasting your time? And you know, you're destroying our beautiful look of the mountains, or you know, our land. And other people were like, no, this is really cool. This is art. This is just adding something. This is hard to do. Because it was like hard to do. It was expensive, and they had to get a lot of permission from different areas of the state. But the man Christo and his wife, they said, but that's all part of the process. The process is to create, like the process is to go through these obstacles. Every obstacle is a challenge. So it's kind of an interesting concept.
And I want to add on to that. Sometimes maybe your art piece is going to be a process or an interactive element that's going to be done at symposium, like during the showcase in the gym. So you could have a situation where the people who visit and listen in on your presentation are adding to your art piece. So your art piece is not finished until the end of the night. I actually went to a Kusama exhibition at the Broad in downtown LA last year, and there was a really cool installation where this entire room, including the light fixtures, the floor, the table, everything, like all the props, the chairs, everything was painted white. And then right before you walk into the room, they would give you a sheet of stickers, of circular stickers of different colors. And your job as the visitor in that space would be to stick the stickers onto the room, right? And so that means every single second, every minute, every day, every month, that room looks different. From the very beginning until what it looked like at the end, it was a completely different story. One was completely stark white, it was bare, and towards the end of the exhibition, it was completely, you couldn't even see a speck of white because so many, thousands of people had stuck stickers everywhere. So the artist is really into circles and colors, and so that was kind of her message about like how art could be interactive and what these colors represent, and how it's kind of like a communal event. So you could have an interactive art piece, so the process itself is art.
For in a few minutes. But you could have them make a structure and make 3 walls or 4 walls. Like one year we had some girls do some stuff on the impact of color, and I borrowed this special light color thing where we had like purple light and green light, and then people got in this little room and they just found out like what it was like to just only be in green light or only be in red light. And so, but they needed a room to do that and not just in the gym. So you can make a room. Now it's going to take some work, but you could do that. It would be very, very exciting too. You could do it with paper too. So here we're getting into recycled art. This is also recycled art because we hate, you know, there's the plastics, right? We know how bad it is that we have so many plastics all over the place because I think they don't fall apart for like, I've heard 700 years. I don't know if they've changed that number. But like plastic bottles, it's not so good to have plastic bottles. I have one here. I didn't buy it. Somebody left it in my room. So do you guys see what this is? See, so you can just recycle these bottles and cut them into things. Now, I've been like dying to do this with plastic, with white plastic, and I'm kind of, when it comes to you guys, well maybe other things too, but when it comes to this subject, I've kind of been hoarding, and because I eat a lot of vegetables and stuff, I just keep like, every time I see these plastic containers, I feel bad that they're going back into the environment, so I keep saving them, and then other teachers see I'm doing it, and so they save them for me. In our side room back here, I have like a whole bunch of these, but I want you to start saving these too if you want to do a plastic art. You can just like start cutting things, and you can turn it into strips. You can turn it into these like cool kind of underwater looking things. The thing is, you can also just take this and cut this and start making curtains. You can start making clothes. You can make all this gate symposium project-y stuff. And then if you paint it, it'll like kind of get peely and kind of have a cool texture that way too. But I love to have a big curtain like in the art gallery out there. So you can just keep making it longer, then you can make it thinner, thicker. You can start cutting it like this.
So what Ms. Keaton and I think is really special about Gate Symposium art projects is that you guys are so creative. You're able to make something out of trash, out of nothing, pretty much. So things that would end up in a landfill, or things that would, you know, end up being just thrown away and forgotten, can be repurposed into beautiful artwork. So what we don't want is for everyone to just go to Michael's and buy all this stuff and then just spend 20 minutes to put it together. And it looks like it's store-bought and it looks so basic, like everybody else could make it, right?
Yeah,
what's gonna make
because
your
everybody else
project,
could.
Yeah, what's going to make your project special is that you're going to use your creativity.
What is this?
Waves.
Okay, and what are they using for the waves?
Dominoes.
So I just wanted to show you, so those are just made out of old records. Now they're finding that some people really like to go back to the old records because even though they sound scratchy sometimes, they have really wonderful sound that comes out. But what does it say when you get it out?
Play.
Bottles.
Those are those bottles I want to use again. Okay, and can you see, can you go back just one more time? I want to show them. You guys, look how big this is. Look at the size of this and size of this person. Okay, so these are cups like this, any kind of cups. They painted them, but you also don't have to paint them. You can just like kind of use your artistic judgment and put different colors together. But look at the size of this little girl and all of these wonderful cans around her. I met an artist that made art this way, and she made all kinds of money, like going around the world doing pieces for people like this. Who can tell me what they see here, what feeling they get? Yes, Karen? Something what? This growing inside? Oh, like it's growing out of her. Oh, okay. Someone else? So there's a lot of references to like the mouth. Yes.
It looks like she might be choking on the
Maybe. Okay, do you think that they painted, that they did not paint this on purpose, or do you think they wanted it like this? What do you think?
You want it like that?
I think so. It would have a different feeling if it was painted, right? So this probably cost like $3 to make, probably just for the glue, because they could just get the newspaper from someone, and they could do this paper mache. They could do this paper mache from, you know, it's just mostly you need glue for that. Okay? So see, the people could walk under that. You see how someone could walk under it and get a feeling, like when Miss Park went to her show and she got to walk into the room, they could walk under this. There might even be like a fragrance, you know, that could be a not happy fragrance, or it could be, you know, you could involve other senses. Then, you know, a frame or a box is an interesting idea. We talked about a circle, you know, and what a circle means. Now, you can see like a square, a rectangle, or pyramid has pointy edges, and that usually means something else. Maybe like something harsher, something man-made. But a frame can also be something that consolidates and holds something together or points something out. But let's say you put a picture of a dictator or a politician that you think is doing bad things, and then you could put around the frame like some of the things that they did, that, you know, just some of the facts, some of the things that they did that would be maybe not positive or positive, but you can use a frame, like you could make something with a very large frame and even have a real person inside. Okay, boxes are very important to use. A lot of kids use boxes in the GATE Symposium because a box can like hold something in. It can also be secretive, it can be confining, it can be safe.
Yes, you could have like things don't appear as they seem, right? Or things are not as they appear. So when you look at the outside, it might look like something, but when you open it in, you see something else. Last year, somebody made a Louis Vuitton bag, and then you, out of paint and cardboard, and then you open it up, and inside you see the factories that produce these types of leather goods, and like the chemicals leaching into the streams. So he wanted to show kind of the environmental impact of these brand name luxury goods. So you wouldn't see it unless you open up the bag, right? In the same way with the frame, maybe you want to show something like the internal reality of something versus what it looks like on the outside. You can incorporate mirrors. Earlier you said you could like crack mirrors.
Cracked glass, cracked mirrors.
The frame, or like the box idea.
And the 99-cent store, or actually Dollar Tree, has like good little mirrors you can go break and stuff. But be careful with those because they're really easy to hurt yourself. I can help you with it maybe. Like put it in a towel and then like crack it with a hammer. I have your mom do it. Okay, and then I just put this here kind of for fun, but you know, think about it. Okay, I've got my camera. You know, lots and lots of mess is about to happen when we start doing all of this, and I have about 250 students right now that come to my classes, and then I add the rest of you on top. There's going to be quite a lot. We love for you to use the art supplies. We love for you to use things up, but we really don't want to waste. So I hate to just see, making a mistake is not wasting, but if people like take too much paint, for example, then that would be wasting. You can come over here and get a plate. This is a nice little waxy finish here. And only put, I'm only going to say do 3 pumps. 3 pumps of each color in. So the brushes, I'm a maniac about brushes because they're expensive, and it's like a policeman, you know, they love their gun, or a carpenter loves their tools. The brush, you have to, the most important thing is that you don't leave it standing in water. I'm going to wait you're listening. You don't leave it standing in water, and that you really wash it well. You may need to use soap. Just with water, go a circle one way, then the other way, and keep rinsing it till there's absolutely no color at all, and then make it come to a point, and no soap either. And then just like set it down so that it dries on a counter. We have lots of counter space.
So you can't do this, you can't just leave it like that to dry?
No, you can't leave it like this to dry. Why?
It smells okay.
Yeah.
So
it'll get gunky and bent and wet, and it can even rot.
Right. So this is why we need to take care of our brushes, because towards the end of symposium we run out of brushes if everybody ruins them, right?
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we take care of our supplies.
Yeah.
Here's an example of a mixed media art piece. As you can see, they used pictures that they cut out of magazines as a collage, and all of these pictures have a certain thematic idea. And as you can see by the symbolization here, this is most likely a project about gender identity, right? And then you see the blue, which is traditionally seen as male, red, traditionally seen as female, and then here we have the purple. So this is probably, if you look at some of these images, you would notice it's probably about transgenderisms or transitioning between genders. So here we can see purple, because if you mix red and blue it becomes purple. So on many levels there is a lot of symbolism in this piece. Here's another piece that a wonderful artist made, and I believe her piece was about nightmares and how they affect us. So she was able to incorporate several pop culture images of nightmarish scenes and create a mural on it. And you can see she put a lot of detail here. And last but not least, and then here we have another mixed media piece. So you can see it's mixed media because there's collage, there's color pencil, Prismacolor, there's an actual ready-made product, which is a record, and then there's also marker, and I believe that's paint. So you see different types of media are used in this piece. And if you think about it, you have to look at it very closely and look at the message. This project is not about monkeys, by the way, all right? But they use the monkey to symbolize something. So if you look closely, it says, monkey see, monkey do. And then here you have the hip hop sign, and then here you have images from the hip-hop industry, and then on this side you have eyes and ears and mouths, right? So this project was most likely focusing on whether or not hip-hop images or hip-hop culture or music lyrics impact our actions, our thoughts, and our words. So that's why they incorporated the monkey. So as you can see, there's multiple layers of meaning in this piece.